Okay, we're cooking.
Oh gosh.
Oh God. Oh God. Cam Becker.
Josh Bonanno, right?
Bonanno. Is your real name Cameron?
It is.
Really?
It is. It's actually Camberley.
No, it's not.
It's Cam.
I was like, wait, I've never heard that name. That's wild.
I can thank Caroline Dare for that one.
Should have that one her? I haven't. I mixed a record for her before, though. Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Nothing but good things to say, but yeah, Camberley. She dubbed me that, and ever since then, I'm like, that's what I'm going by.
Oh, I love it. What's on your mind? What keeps
me up at night? That's just jumping straight to it. So what's on your mind, man?
Tell me.
Dude, it's hot out. The world's getting hotter and hotter.
Do you not like the heat?
I mean, in Ohio, we kind of got the worst of everything. Like, we got extreme cold and extreme heat, but never like this muggy, this bad. Like,
this summer is very hot already, and we're only like halfway through, I feel like.
Apparently, it's like that everywhere right now, but
I did see that. I don't know that I trust things on the internet all the time, but it was like this 4th of July was like the hottest day in ever recorded history or something.
They're like, I don't know. I mean, that probably means like the last 100 years or so.
Yeah. There's like an asterisk to it. I'm sure that I like wasn't reading correctly.
Oh yeah.
But, gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, I moved to Nashville fully anticipating some heat, and so here we are. I'm getting what I asked for.
Well, I feel like you probably don't miss the winter from Ohio.
No.
Because it doesn't get as cold or snowy here as I'd imagine.
No. But yeah.
Yeah, the weather here, I don't know. People complain about it, but I think it's fine.
It's really nice. Like, so far, about 9 to 10 months out of the year, it seems. And
well, you haven't even been here a year, have you?
Not yet. I've been here. I moved here last August, like beginning of last August, so almost a year. Actually, almost a year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What have you learned most moving to Nashville so far?
I've learned that everyone is a human.
Everyone's a human.
Human. No one's any better than you or worse than you. They're just human.
That's an interesting thought, because you know what? I think that's something I learned very quickly moving to Nashville too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think I grew up in a small town outside of Philly in New Jersey, and I think you can romanticize people and the ideas of things sometimes, especially when you see them online, or like they're like musicians who you grew up loving. And there was a couple instances where like I moved to Nashville and I got to meet those people that like, not like huge names by any means, but just people who like I grew up listening to their music or whatever that was.
Yeah.
On MySpace or whatever at the time. And I met them with this like big picture of like, oh, they figured it out. They're the real deal. And then I met them and I was like, they were asking me questions. Like, what do you do with the, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, you're supposed to have the answers. You made the whole, and they were like, I don't know anything. Like, I don't.
That's exactly. I don't feel that anything. Exact same thing, man. I've been very, very lucky to have been working with some people who I've looked up to for a long time, and none of them are like household names, I'd say, but they're very special to me for a long time, and then I meet them and get to hang with them and know them as people. And I'm like, oh, they're just a bunch of bros, or just a bunch of homies who are, I don't know.
It's humbling though. I mean, I remember that moment. I remember that moment. I tell that to a lot of people who move here, from smaller towns or whatever, who people who like haven't maybe like fully gotten into the industry quite yet, and they're still like on the outskirts and cutting their teeth. I'm like, everybody's just a human, and nobody really knows. We're all figuring it out. We're all figuring it out. Like,
everyone's winging it every day, bro. And every time you look at other people on social media, obviously everyone's posting like their highlights and whatnot. But seriously, most people are not having a great time when no one's looking, and well, at least like everyone's got to live with themselves at the end of the day. No one's got to.
Everyone's got to live with themselves.
Everyone's got to live with themselves at the end of the day, and how much you like yourself matters a lot. And not a lot of people really like themselves
Whoa.
You know, but
that's very true. Yeah, I mean that's wild.
You may like aspects of yourself, but you know, at least everyone I know is like their own worst critic, which is both good and bad. Like you're your own motivator to be the best version of yourself, but at the same time, you're also like the quickest to berate yourself as opposed to point fingers at other people. At least me and the people I'm around.
Yeah. It's a hard dynamic though, because what's the opposite of that? Like, you think you're the best thing to ever exist, and like that's not really.
I mean, there's definitely an opposite extreme, but
yeah.
I definitely think there's also a middle ground that, you know, just being realistic. Like, don't be too hard on yourself, but know how you can be better every day. If you're not, and you know how you feel about where you're at. Like,
you can only really compete with yourself. I think. And I think that's the issue that social media brings up is it puts everybody else in the competition with you, or at least it feels like that, you know, because everybody else is there and it's easy to compare, really. Yeah. Which is an interesting question I had for you. Like, what is your feelings on social media in general? You're a guy who spends time online for sure, right?
A little too much time online sometimes, but I'm just scrolling through memes, dude. Like it's
it's pure entertainment
for the most part now. Yeah, I mean I follow my friends and I'll scroll through stories just when we all kind of instinctively do scroll through stories and check out what our friends are doing, whether we like mean to or not. I've noticed it's like a compulsion for most of the people.
I don't even know what I'm consuming. It's just like
exactly like at least for me, like I'm just instinctively opening and scrolling and looking through, and I'm just like cool, and then I like 20-30 minutes go by and I'm like, what, where was I for the I don't know. I try to do less of that and more just like if I'm getting on, like I'm trying to feed my algorithm more like entertaining stuff, like meme pages, or you know, people who I do see on a daily basis, who I want to, or not see on a daily basis, but like want to see their lives on a daily basis, or you know, like closest of close, I suppose. But
so you spend time intentionally feeding your algorithm,
or you know, that's the intention, but a lot of times, you know, you end up trailing off into rabbit holes of things. But anyway, it can be very good entertainment and a good way to stay connected with people, and like. I've met a lot of friends online and made a lot of connections with people online that have turned into in-person connections, and you know, just made friends thanks to the internet. And obviously the internet also has allowed my career to be where it's at and continue to be going well, which is very fortunate. But
do you acquaint a lot of that with your career, with like social media, you think?
Oh, dude, if it weren't for Knox and Braden and people like that going off on TikTok, like like that's gotten me in so many rooms and gotten me so much like what's the word? Not like proof, but like what's the
notoriety to some extent?
To some extent, sure. That's not the word I'm looking for, but like
I know what you're saying, like proof of concept to some extent, like
right. Like it's kind of like I can hang, like I can do something in this thing, and I've like a lot of it surprised me too, because when you know you're working on stuff, like it's just another song today. You know, and this one feels really good, but you can never anticipate, you know, career-changing, trajectory-changing things. But anyway, I have a lot to thank social media for, but I also know within myself that it's just, like, I like it too much sometimes, and it can be a source of great distraction and friction in my life, and I need to, like... You know, a solid break from it would be good. I've been like meaning to for a long time, but like haven't really had. There's always been a reason not to yet, you know.
And that's a lie, at least that I tell myself, of like, well, it's work. Like, because I say the same thing. Like, I don't think you know, at this point in my career, I like to think that I could walk away from it and still sustain a lot of what I do, just because it gets to a point where I think it gets a little more like word of mouthy, and like, you know, you kind of know whatever. And a lot of my work comes from just like people calling me or whatever, but it definitely is like, well, I got to stay top of mind, or you know, I have to be there. Like that's where everything's happening. You know, I have to stay relevant, and if I'm not relevant, then people forget about me or whatever that may be. So
there's definitely that word, that FOMO there for sure.
The thing I struggle with too, I think, is I enjoy it in a, I'm not going to say wholesome way, but I enjoy it in a...
I said I'm so wholesome.
I enjoy it in a way of like this. Like, I enjoy creating for the platform. Like, I think there's art in the idea of creating, which I hate this word, content, but I think there is value in that and putting it out there. And I think that's how I fool myself too, of like, well, no, you're creating something that is valuable that like people will enjoy.
That's exactly,
whether that's a thing like this of having a conversation, or if that's a, hey, here's a mixtape thing, which is, I don't desire to be like an educator by any means, so I flirt with that line a little bit, but there's a way that I can kind of warrant the idea of spending time online, because I'm like, well, you're doing good with it. It's good, you're helping. Yeah. When in reality, it's helping my dopamine. Right. Well, it's really just honestly, feeding ego because I'm looking for likes or something.
But dude, like, that's like kind of an not unspoken, because everyone knows and everyone talks about it, but like, yeah, dude, we do it for the attention sometimes, or like we do it for the, like, why not share with people who we are? Like, that's kind of what,
which at its core I think is a pure motive, right? Like, I think that's a pure motive, but it's the reward system, I think, that like is not really
the and follower count, and it becomes a game when you put numbers to it. To me, I try not to like worry too much about numbers. We all try not to, but we kind of have to. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I said I want to get this tattoo, the Spotify less than 1,000. The like, what a baller, because like that is the most dreaded thing in the music industry. It's like, like if a song doesn't get more than 1,000, you have to look at that less than 1,000 thing.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm like, I want to wear it proudly.
It's like an F.
Yeah. Oh, it's like that's below a F. That's
it's like, here's a reminder.
It's an F on a test. Yeah.
Yeah. I do try. I will say I do try to stay off of TikTok, or not not so much intentionally really, but like I don't really get on it as much, and like don't every time the FYP is too good. Like I am so susceptible to just sitting there and scrolling, and it's just nonsense. And like
the algorithm is crazy.
It's stupid, and like it's a mixture of all things I like, or it's just all my friends self-promoting,
or things I don't know that I like yet.
Exactly, which is
in the 5 more minutes on the page, and I'm going to know a whole lot about landscaping or something.
Yeah, like people send me TikToks all the time, and I'll open the app to look, and then I'm just like, good on that. But I would like to start like doing more stuff like this, where it's like just putting myself out there more, and connecting with people that way, and trying to take advantage of a lot of eyes I'm starting to get.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's a valuable thing to think about and maintain, right? Because like you said, you have a lot of eyes on what you're doing, essentially. So like, I think there is a responsibility as a business owner, which is what you are, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're creative, but at the end of the day, you have to pay your bills with your art, right? Like, so you're a business owner. You have to maintain the business, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you got to stay relevant to do that in a way, or just maintain a consistent enough client base for the rest of your life. But
sure. I mean, that's not to say that,
like there are producers and mixing engineers out there who work for like a lot of, or just like 5 of like the old classic bands, and then like that's all they have been doing for decades, I'm sure. I don't know.
Well, that goes back to like, there's no like, everybody's kind of just figuring it out. Like, there's no right or wrong way, right? 100%. Like there's people who don't even have a social media profile, I'm sure, and like they make more money than you and I combined making art that might even be inherently worse than ours. I don't know, like
worse, better, to me there is exactly. There's definitely to me that is mostly subjective. There is an objectivity to all that, but
see, but look at the look at the conundrum you put yourself in and say, yeah, it's totally subjective, but there is some objectivity.
There is.
What a statement.
I don't know. The reason that some people like certain genres primarily and don't like others, it's like, well, other people are the opposite. Like, yes, there is, like, you can't, obviously a mishmash of notes isn't gonna be like.
I mean, there's a real thing in the world called atonal music, which is
okay.
quite literally
That's
just.
What I mean, though, it's like it's all preference based. Like,
is it all preference based? I mean, yes, it's all preference based, but I think it's more just based on finding your audience.
Yeah.
Right, which is like the Seth Godin
of
thing,
other
or
people
Godin
with the
thing,
same preference or the same
where it's
taste,
like,
you know.
Yeah, people like us do things like us.
Yeah.
And when you that this is something that I riff on a lot is like I think the greatest problem a lot of people have is that they're just not aligned with like really what they are or who they are, and they can't find accurately how to express that because they're not like fully in tune with it.
Yeah.
And they also can't find people who resonate with it because they don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I say this a lot, even with like songwriters or whatever musicians. Is like at the core of it is like, yes, you might play a guitar or be like a singer-songwriter, but like at your core, like you're a storyteller or you're a performer, right? And or maybe you're just a vocalist or maybe you're a great teacher. Like, and within all that, you can do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Like we possess all those different talents, but I think it's coming back to the core of like, I'm a great performer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's pretend you're the best performer, and when you get on a stage, you come alive. You can grab people's attention. But you might not. You know, you could write songs.
Sure.
But you might not be the best songwriter, right?
No.
So that's where you need to like humble yourself and be like, no, I need to get with people who can help me have songs that then feed my energy to be able to perform, and that's when things start to shake loose. I think
100%. You can't.
But you have to have that awareness, and there's like an ego that has to die within that too, right? Because like, just because I have guitars and a computer and like a piano and all these things, like, can I play them? Yeah. Am I always the person that needs to be playing them? Absolutely not.
That's an interesting way to put it.
And I think that's where like a lot of the hurts and hang-ups come with things is people just are not fully aware of who they are at their core.
I mean,
or what it is they offer.
I feel that a lot sometimes because it's like I go back and forth between like, obviously right now I'm mostly producer, but like sometimes I'm a mixing engineer, sometimes I'm a songwriter, sometimes I'm like just a musician on it, sometimes I'm hell, sometimes I'm not even really doing anything but just like sort of laying the vibe down and just like making sure that it's a good vibe in the room, I guess, or a good hang. I don't know. Like, you wear different hats in so many different ways, so many different times, and it's like, but I like it all. And you kind of want to be as good as you can be at all of it. But that all takes, it all takes time and balance, and it's a back and forth between like what's really worth my time right now.
I don't think what I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't ever pick a guitar. I mean,
sure.
A guitar player, but I think you need to pick it up with the intention of knowing like, this is a tool that is fueling what I really am as a storyteller, or maybe this is the tool, like think about a performer on stage. They're a performer and they might have a guitar in their hands, but they're not the main show by the guitar player, right? They're just, it's Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's not, she's got a guitar, she's a performer, she's a personality, right?
100%. She can play, but she's not like a guitarist per se. Like
it just adds to the storytelling.
Same.
It's much more of an interesting story when she's got a guitar in her hands and it feels like she's telling you a singer-songwriter thing.
100%. 100%, man.
So
it's all about just whatever helps you get whatever's in your brain out into reality. Too, like whatever that is. Like if that is crazy guitar stuff, then go do your crazy guitar stuff. But for me, it's like not so crazy guitar stuff. It's decent guitar stuff,
Well, I think we were talking about this before we started, but you were saying you're a piano player first, or keys player, which is funny to me because I feel like maybe this is just me projecting, but like I feel like what you became known for best in this whole scene of Knox and whatever coming up is like guitar driven like pop music alternative, which is so funny because like
which is cool,
there's barely like any keys in those types of songs that you do, and it's all guitar driven, and you're like, I'm not even a guitar player.
Right. I mean, I can play guitar,
which you are.
I do chords and like catchy lead stuff, and like rhythms and little ambient like pads and stuff, but like it's all coming from a keyboard player's perspective, and like, which is why I go for the more pop-oriented, chordy stuff, as far as like what I end up making, I enjoy stuff that's like crazy leads and wild like tappy widdly diddly stuff, but like that's just not how my creative brain works, as much as I'd love it to. But yeah, like it's guitar, I guess I picked that up in middle school and sort of taught myself and fell in love with that pretty hard, but I never like...
So you've still been playing guitar for a while.
Yeah,
it's not like...
But I've been playing piano since I was like 5. And
gotcha, okay.
And I never really like abandoned that.
Gotcha.
I just sort of gained the...
You just shifted.
Right, sort of gained the extra ability, but only... I could only do as much guitar as I could piano, like, and I'm not even really a crazy keys player. Like, I can do like contemporary church band or like musical theater-esque stuff.
Did you grow up in church doing church?
Oh yeah. My dad's a church organist and choir director, and everyone. My mom runs a church software company that her parents started, so I grew up in the whole thing. And,
gotcha.
That's kind of what got me into music in general, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it's just funny. I mean, I grew up in church myself.
Yeah.
Still am a part of the church.
Most people I meet around here, that's kind of what their start is.
Well, is it just Nashville, though? Because I was going to say, like, I think it's not just Nashville.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I've got friends who are from Utah who,
Sure,
from that, or like, people from all over, especially Ohio too. Like contemporary church band is a huge way to get kids into. Because like, I mean, you've got the high school music program, but like, where else are you gonna get, a guitar handed to you in like a band setting? At such a young age too. Anyway,
no, I think it's great. Because I think so many people love to like shit on the modern church or church in general or whatever that is, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think people fully comprehend what it does for people,
right?
And maybe there's more hurt than like good that it does at times. But I mean, I know I wouldn't be making music if it wasn't for like that upbringing. Yeah, like if it wasn't for, I would have never sparked that thing. And 100%. I think that story is so true of many people where. And then on the flip side, let's say people walk away from the church, it's like that feels a different level of art,
Yeah,
so
man.
It's funny. I don't think people fully always realize that, but maybe it's like, we're in the Bible Belt to some extent down here, so it attracts, some type of person, but it is the large story for a lot of people where growing up, church band or something, and that's where they got desire for it. What are your aspirations? What do you like? What's the goal here?
The goal here is just to keep this whole game going, I suppose. Like, I feel like I'm like hacking life.
Oh,
honestly, because like I've turned my hobby into a career, which honestly unlocks a whole new set of weird issues. Because then I'm like, I need new hobbies. Because I can't. If I start doing what I love doing all the time, I start not loving it as much, and
you're where I was at.
A
few years ago.
It's called burnout.
It's called
balanced burnout these days for me right now. I feel like I'm in a good spot like right now.
Yeah.
But earlier this year, it was definitely, there was a point where I was like, okay, I kind of got to do something else, or like for at least like.
I think you got thrown into it pretty heavily, pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you moved here and hit the ground running more than
straight to 2 sessions a day for like 3 months straight.
Yeah.
And then
that's what people dream of doing, and then
you
were like, I don't know if I can even make a career out of this, and then you jump right into that.
Literally, it's wild. But I mean, obviously, when you're starting out, none of those are really paid, and none of it is like. That's the thing too, is like learning how to turn it into a career.
Yeah.
And how to live off of it has been really interesting too, because I used to think it's just like every day, the work that you do every day, you get paid for directly for that work per day, or like, there's a fee for. I mean, shit. I remember when I was in high school and I first was like, I want to like be a studio guy for a living, whatever that means. Like, I want to do this whole thing. I remember Googling record producer salary. Like, I was like, what am I looking at?
I think we all have done that.
Yeah, it was just like, what can I tell my parents I can expect to make type shit if I wanna do this? And I saw that it was something not great, but I also didn't even know what great versus not great was
at that age. You can't even comprehend.
Yeah, I was like, $40K a year, cool, yeah. But you know, the older you get, the more you realize, no, it's like you get paid per song. Sort of.
Sort of, yeah. Sort of.
And now I'm like, you get paid every time one works, and you get it paid big when it does work, and then nothing if it doesn't, or barely anything if it sort of does, you know?
Yeah.
That's why you gotta be, like, a lot of this is luck. A lot of this is luck.
That's another great question I was thinking going into this. I was like, I wonder how much you really do. How much do you think it's luck versus?
Oh, so like primarily, like I mean, luck. There's definitely. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely a lot of talent and ability and work ethic and like time put in and like amount of reps you need to put in and like personability you need to have and money you need to have and people you need to know. Like all that stuff is important, but also like there are people who have all that and still don't make it, and it's a lot of it is just pure luck. Like,
what's make it though? What do you mean they don't make it?
I guess they don't feel like they're like a big thing or like get rich and famous off of it or something. I guess is
so they don't feel like it,
right? But maybe they have in someone else's eyes. I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, that's just me.
Sure.
Poking at the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Quick.
No, I love it.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's. I'm not saying there's not a level of luck to it.
Sure.
But I think you can set yourself up to win the lottery more than somebody else. So I think there's a lot of people who are just like, oh, there's no luck. And it's like they just haven't set themselves in the position to even have... Like there's factors you can add to really win the thing, right?
Yeah, you got to buy a certain amount of lottery tickets in order to increase your chances.
That's a good... And like... But you could even do more. Like you could research where lottery tickets hit and do this.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. You could do all that.
You could research the numbers that normally hit and try the ones that do hit and then try the ones that don't.
And you could still never get it, and then someone else who just buys one could.
Correct.
But it also goes the other way too. Like that stuff does work out because you do increase your chance. Like it's preparation beats opportunity.
Correct. Because you could also have the thing fall in your lap and not be prepared.
Exactly.
And then completely lose it.
Yeah.
Which I think is just as devastating, which I think when you view it through a lens of time, that happens often, even with people who we think made it and won the lottery.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity falls in their lap and it looks like they hit the lottery, but 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 months from now, they blew it all. They couldn't pay the back taxes. They bought things out of their price range, and they lose, right? I guess, depending it just depends what it is. If their goal was to just be a one-hit wonder and make it big for 2 hours,
sure,
then they met their goal. But I think most of us in this conversation are out to like make a lasting sort of career out of it.
Oh yeah,
And when you view the lens of people who have real, like, long-term careers in this, it's very small.
I feel like I've never opened a beer bottle before. That was the most awkward beer bottle. I was like,
it was because it was on camera.
Yeah. I hear you.
But yeah, I think all these conversations always turn into this because I think we're all after the same thing, right? Of just figuring it out and dealing with it. And I think you just need to start by setting expectations of what it is. The game is that you're even playing, right? Like, what is it? What even is the success thing to somebody? Because I think a lot of people can't even explain that.
For me,
because if $40,000 is success, like,
to some people that is a lot of money, and
absolutely
to me that's a lot, But lately, though, there's been a new aspect of what success means right now is milking it while we can, because AI is coming for our asses.
Yeah.
Sort of. I say that half jokingly, but, you know, it's going to start doing more and more, and the stuff that a lot of people spend most of their days and call their jobs is going to be done better and quicker, more efficiently in one day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in diving more into that and understanding what your feelings are on it.
Yeah.
Because I don't disagree with you.
I'm back and forth all the time.
It's definitely something I've been thinking about as somebody who strictly mixes records.
Yeah.
I've been having an identity crisis to some extent.
There's definitely an art form.
Part of it, but,
yeah.
But not fully AI. I mean, there's more to my sort of like, what am I doing here type of idea.
Right.
And some of it's like artsy, fartsy. But some of it is just the tangibility of just like AI. But yeah, I don't know. I think my overall large take on the AI thing, like Too Long Didn't Breed, is that it's going to change the way we do things, and it's going to definitely make the landscape of like work look different.
Yeah.
As far as creative talk goes, like I think the idea of like picking up a paintbrush to draw the lines and like paint the picture isn't going to exist anymore, and I think it's going to move into a much more like heady space where you're going to have to tell it how to do it correctly in a very specific way. It's going to become a much more prompt driven, which I know is like
just about to say,
which is a very like buzzwordy thing that's going around right now, but like if you can't articulate something, you can't use AI. Because AI,
correct.
I remember I was like in second grade or something, and we had like one of those little like Lego robot people come to like my school, and they like built the robots, and you like programmed to do something. It was like trying to teach you how to program.
But you gotta.
Well, I vividly remember it telling us. They told us the first thing, they were like, computers can only do what you tell it to do. Mm-hmm. It won't ever do anything else. That's all it can do is tell you what to do, or it does what you tell it to do. And like as this AI thing's coming back, I think about that a lot because I think that still rings true, and I could be wrong. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors and like these large language learning models or whatever.
Yeah, like what is it? AGI, like artificial general intelligence is what that is. Where like you start having like consciousness. Where it starts gaining things and then it starts assuming things. It starts writing code. But here's the thing is, we still have to give it permission to do that. True. The user has to give it permission to do that. And I'm not talking about this whole like existential thing. I'm talking strictly us as artists. Okay, yeah. Well, that's the thing is like AI art, I mean, if all this is art too, like it's taste driven. It's individual decisions made along the way that all build up to the big picture, and a lot of those decisions can be made more efficiently by automated means, but there are still some decisions in that giant pile of decisions that are made per work of art that are inherently driven by the taste of the person curating everything. Then that's kind of where the artistic value, like I was looking, I was just going through an Instagram rabbit hole this morning. I was up too early, and an AI video came up, and dude was like, AI is like photography. It didn't necessarily get rid of drawing and painting the way that people thought it would. Like that stuff, that art form still exists, but alongside photography, even though photography is technically a lot more efficient of a way to do it or to get a picture there than looking at it and trying to recreate it. But there is an intrinsic art form and humanity to a drawing or a painting or even a digital work of art that's human made. I think that value will never go away. Well, because what you're trying to say or bank on is like the idea of emotion, right? An expression out of emotion. Yeah. Which like AI can never do. Yeah. Correct. The human aspect. Or even if it eventually can, like I think a lot of the value bigger problems if it can. Yeah. Because at that point you're telling me it has feelings. Well, let's say hypothetically, like a long time in the future, or sometime in the future, AI develops feelings and consciousness and humanity and whatnot, which it I think it likely will, but when that is debatable, and I don't know, but gosh, what was I just gonna say? I'm sorry, ADHD, train of thought lost. It's like, I thought I had it. Oh no! You just watched a total brain glitch. You just watched a total brain glitch. You are AI
right now. You're AI.
I literally am. Oh yeah, no. Even if it does, gain the ability to feel, there is an intrinsic value in the maker, I think. So like having this person's art as opposed to just good art. Period.
Well, that gets into like what you and I were talking about earlier, where you were saying like you want to start, let's say, like an artist project, but you don't want to be the face of it. Mm-hmm. So can art exist without a human being the face of it? Like, is the future of art me having to get in front of a camera and do a TikTok in my car to put my face in front of like a song? Like. Because if what you're saying is that's the only way you'll listen to a song is if you connect with the person behind the song.
I wouldn't say that's the only way I'd listen to a song, but I don't know. For me,
that is the most important part of it.
That is like that's what draws me. That's what makes something so appealing to me, is if I can like hear the creativity in it and hear the intention and emotion in it. As opposed to just like, is this technically complicated and good, or maybe not complicated but like, is this like, rather than being utility driven, it's more like beauty driven. I don't know if I really articulated that thought right, but
no, I think it's great. I mean, it's something I think about and struggle with a lot, is like, what even is the purpose of art, quote unquote, to some extent, right? Yeah. Because I think there is art that is, where art even gets to struggle with that, but like it has it's strictly utility based, right? Like lo-fi beats,
right,
to study to,
right, or
strictly like a utility style thing,
or like a movie soundtrack, even though that is like a certain.
Let's blur in some lines, because that's conveying emotion pretty.
You're okay. You're okay. You're totally right about that.
It's a pretty emotional, like driven, thing.
But
it's serving a purpose. I don't fight you on that. Like, it is serving a greater purpose, and the music is not the main thing.
Right. I should say more like music played out in public, like in malls or like and stuff like that, where it's like meant to be sort of audio wallpaper.
Talking like Brian Eno now. Yeah.
Right. Well, even ambient music is like There's a lot of. I've been getting into that type of stuff lately, too. I like sleepy stuff lately.
Oh, we can hear out on that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge ambient. I mean, I grew up in the church.
Ambient shoegaze type stuff. Like,
yeah. Which, again, just serves a different purpose, I think, which then, I guess, bears the question, like, I think it's hard because we work in pop music, right?
Yeah.
And I think the idea of pop music is that it's meant to be self-expression.
Sure, yeah.
At its core, like if you were to talk to any pop artist, like they're trying to say, no, this is like me expressing myself. But the reality is, we think farther into it. We're like, no, you're just trying to be popular. Like you're trying to create a product here so that you could be number one and get paid.
100%.
So I think that's the real issue that gets like blurred in these conversations of art sometimes, right? Is like when it becomes commodified.
Yeah. That's where, like, that's why when I told you about I want my artist thing to be kind of, like, faceless and more artistic, I guess, like, because I've set up my life to where my day job is more that's the commodity stuff, but, like, that's the stuff, I work in pop, so, like,
I'm going to forecast the next 5 years of your life. You ready? Because I did it. You're going to get into making this artist project. It's going to be heady, whatever, for you. It's going to be great for a few minutes. Yeah. Then it's going to get into sync, and you're going to be like, I can make money with this?
Oh, man.
And then that's going to become a job.
You've seen it.
I did it.
Oh, you did it?
Yes. When I moved to Nashville, I made a point to be like, because I was producing records, doing whatever.
Oh.
Like before I moved, I was like recording and producing, and like I was more of like an engineer in the sense. I wasn't like making beats and doing production or whatever. So when I moved to Nashville, I was like, I'm not a Nashville type producer. Like I'm an engineer more so.
Yeah.
And I was already mixing records in my free time and like had a decent like clientele with that. So when I moved here, I was like, all I'm gonna do is like go all in on mixing. Like I don't want to be the like jack of all trades. I'm gonna go be the specialized guy. Went all in mixing. And it turned into like, I did it like a year and a half or so, and it just turned into like a desk job. And I was like, this is kind of boring. Like I can't express myself. Like I'm bored. And I picked up my guitar and I just started like doing random instrumental, because like I don't really sing or do anything. So I just started doing like just random fun instrumental stuff on a couple nights when I was bored or whatever. I don't remember if I posted one or did something or whatever it was. I like collaborated with a friend on or whatever, and then he was like a part of a sync company, and he was like, hey, these are like pretty good. Like I know we were just doing them for fun, but like I've been making money like uploading stuff to the sync company. Like, do you want to see if they want to put it out? And I was like, sure, whatever. And we did, and it made money. And I was like, oh, that's dope. And then like I had a couple other projects, like things that somebody heard and they put vocals on top of, and I was like, well, this is really cool. Like this is like an artist type project. And that was really cool for a little bit until we realized we should get into sync with this. We put it out, made money on it. And I was like, oh my God, like this thing that brought me joy is now another job. And now it's, and then it became just like, okay, well, this isn't fun anymore. Now I want to feed the sync engine. Oh, what do they want? Christmas songs? Like,
oh yeah.
So I started doing it, and it was still fun because it was different than mixing, but it quickly became a job again. And then I went, well, there goes that joy. I need a new hobby.
I don't know.
Which I never really found a new hobby, so I'm open to it. But
yeah.
But my point being, I think creatives sometimes are their own worst enemies because they turn everything into a job somehow.
Yeah, because you want to do it more and you want to make money off of it.
Because you want it to like sustain itself. I think.
Yeah. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know. It depends on.
Anyway, I didn't mean to derail the.
No, you're good. That's a good way. That's a good point though. Like it depends on how what your intention behind it is every time you're doing it and every day. Because like enjoying the process is more what I want the purpose of it to be, rather than like the end goal. But I could say all this and it's all just like thoughts and plans in my head right now. Like it doesn't really mean anything.
I enjoyed the process of mixing records through all that though, and I still enjoy the process of mixing records, but it just didn't scratch the fulfillment itch that like something else did. Of creating something or building something or maybe there's like an ownership value to it too, of like owning something, This is mine. I didn't do this for somebody else. This is my thing.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And I love doing. I mean, we're the type of people who love doing stuff with and for other people. That's kind of our strength.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I love doing things for other people because it's black and white. There's a yes and a no and a right and a wrong.
Correct. And there is a guiding light, which is their opinion.
Correct.
When I can't make a decision, they can for me.
Exactly. The idea of like
relief in that,
which I give a lot of props to artists, I guess in general, is like living in your head of like there's no guiding light other than yourself, which is why I see artists getting into wanting to serve the audience, right? Because that's their guiding light of if the audience likes it or not.
Yeah. Interesting. It all goes to we all need someone giving us answers.
I mean, somewhat at the end of the day, I guess, but well, because it's just a crazy place to live in your head of is this good? Is this bad? Is it right? Is it wrong? Mm-hmm. So we're looking for answers to some extent. We're looking for some sort of lines to drive within, I think. Yeah, man. Because otherwise, it's just too open ended and it's pretty spacey. Wild.
Where to now?
What does your diet look like? What do you eat?
Oh God, that's. I love that though. It's not great. And it's always changing.
I was just curious. I'm you're either the guy who just eats fast food every single day because you're busy and just can't deal with it.
Lately, yes and no. I'm eating out, but trying to eat nicer out.
Gotcha.
Or ordering food, but I used, every time I get groceries, it's kind of the same thing. Like a lot of like eggs and sausage in the morning, and like ham and cheese sandwiches for lunch type deal, and like I love Asian food.
Okay.
Like I love Hawkers so much right now. I'll eat that like every other day.
I have not been there yet.
It's so good. Oh my god.
I always drive by and I'm like, that's a place I need to get.
It's so good. I like a lot of spicy stuff, but yeah, I'm working on,
cooking more.
Yeah, I need to cook more, and like, there's a lot of chicken too.
Yeah.
Sometimes just plain old chicken and rice when I'm in doubt.
I can eat that every day.
What about you, man? What's
my diet?
Yeah.
Well, it's just funny. I just always ask because I don't know. I oscillate between all the things too, right? Like,
yeah.
It's an interesting conversation to have as like creatives, I think, because we sit in a room and we get busy and like we let time get away from us, and like cooking is like kind of a time thing. You got to plan for it and prep.
It's something that you can kind of turn your other brain off for a bit.
Well, I enjoy cooking, but the problem is like it requires me to be like, okay, I'm hungry, right? I might be working and I'm working till 6, 7 p.m. and now it's like, oh, I'm so hungry right now that like I need to eat because I'm like hangry, like it's a problem.
Yeah, like it's starting to interfere with.
But if I didn't plan to like cook dinner tonight, I now have to go to the grocery store, buy, like do the whole thing, and I'm like, that's just not going to happen. So then it usually turns into me eating like just garbage, ramen, or like whatever's in the house.
Right.
So it's definitely like a hard thing, and I always talk to creatives about it because I think we all have like weird relationships with food within that, and we sit a lot, so it's like you need to be taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
But I cook mainly. We don't eat out a lot. Me and my wife, we cook a lot, but her diet is pretty brutal.
Oh no, how so?
She's like gluten-free, dairy-free, and a vegetarian. So it's like
jeez, so what does she eat?
A lot of hummus, beans, guac, like Mexican style stuff, peppers, onions. So like it definitely challenges us to like cook a lot, which again I enjoy because I enjoy cooking, and I think there's a good brain reset and like a shut off for me to like.
I like cooking too.
Get away, like cook, do the whole thing.
My little brother goes to culinary school in New York.
Oh, really? Ooh, that's cool.
I know. He's been showing me some.
There you go.
Some little stuffs here and there, and.
Which again, like I love doing the whole thing, but it's just I struggle with the preparation of it because like, you can't just be like, I'm gonna cook this thing, and then you got to go to the grocery store and buy like 400 ingredients that you don't even know or have or ever gonna use again.
Yeah.
But there's nothing more than I love than like cooking and like zoning out and like, honing in and like doing the thing.
100%. I did HelloFresh for a couple months earlier this year, and I know a lot of people talk shit about it, but like
people talk about HelloFresh. I mean, really?
Kind of like at least.
I think it's honestly a great.
I think it's great.
Yeah,
not actually not a lot of people.
Especially for people who like would never cook at all. Like, it's so easy. Yeah,
because they hand you all the ingredients and it's all correctly proportioned out, and you got the recipes. It gives you, because like that's my thing is like I don't know how to change it up. Like plus like they give you the recipes, so I need to actually like take advantage of that more and like meal plan and stuff like that. But
I loved it, especially when I was single, because like I don't want to go out and buy like all this seasoning or something and like store it just for like one meal. So like them giving like prepackaged everything, just like here's the meal turnkey, like you just cook it.
And a lot of times you've got stuff left over too for the spices you can put in the
Yeah, well I loved it too because like they were pretty big portions. So I was like, that's 2 days worth of food. Like
there you go.
And then you get the hack where you can like they give you like free codes or whatever. So you have a buddy who.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever done that where it's like they have a buddy and it's like, oh yeah, I signed up for HelloFresh and they're like, here's a free, and it's like $10 you eat for like the week. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a deal.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty. Yeah, I personally love HelloFresh, but yeah, I stopped doing it because I was starting to travel a lot more and I would miss a lot of meals, and I'm like, I can't like keep stuff because the meals kept going bad for me.
Gotcha.
And stuff, but
the ingredients alone.
Or
well, that's why like I look at guys like you who are like in the room with people, right? And I guess everybody's different, but like for me that uses like a lot of social energy usually. So it's like
too. Yeah, I've noticed like honestly my social battery has changed and does fluctuate, even though like I'm working like more one-on-one with people or more like in smaller settings with people than I used to. But I used to have jobs where I used to work in retail, and then I was at an office job, so it's like kind of a lot of people all day every day.
I think I function better with like a lot of people because I kind of like do my own thing, but like when it's like 2 or 3 people over, I'm like, that's like the whole day of energy that I have, like by the time I prepare for somebody to get here and do the thing, and like
it's not like for me like it's not like, oh god, here comes to an artist and a writer today, oh god, what am I gonna do? But like it definitely is a different kind of. I have some days where I am dialed in making the beat and I'm kind of checked out in the room, and I feel bad, but like I kind of just like don't have it in me to really like put on happy producer face today, sometimes
you've learned to embrace that enough to just I not have to put on a show every time,
I can be warm and inviting and make you feel like I don't hate that you're in my house right now type thing, but like
also like I'm not doing backflips right now,
but at the same, like I'm not. Some days I'm a little bit more dialed in on the production stuff and not quite as in the session mentally. Other times I'm turned around and we're hanging out and but most of the time it's just kind of hanging out with people every day and making random tunes and somehow down the line hoping to get money for it,
What's been, you don't want to do this, but I'll pose the question still. What's been like the most nightmare like session that you've ever had?
Oh man. Most nightmare session like ever.
Sure, ever, yeah.
Okay. It was before I moved here. It was in Columbus. It was a very local person. Nobody knows them. I don't even know if he's still doing music anymore, but this dude basically was like a local rapper, and
we've all had those. You got to cut your teeth on local rappers.
He got dropped off by like some family member who's like some step family member, and dude shows up on Xanax, and like I need to like walk him into.
You can't even walk into this.
Yeah, I'm like sort of like late college, but like moved back into my parents' house, and
oh no, he's coming to your parents' house,
right? Yeah. And dude's like a zombified, and I was like, because he's been over a couple times before, it wasn't like that.
Gotcha.
So he didn't tell me he was on that, so I thought he was just like whatever. I don't know. I thought because I thought it was still gonna work. I thought he was still gonna be able to do the thing somehow. I like agreed. Like 20 minutes in, dude couldn't even stand up at the mic. Dude didn't even know what we were doing, and that was the worst session ever. So anything is better than
you did it well, where you really set yourself up badly before.
Yes.
You got the worst out of the way. That anything natural is going to be more pro than that.
Absolutely. There was one session. There's been a couple where it's just like the vibe isn't there.
Yeah.
Like I'm not typically
through it. Yeah.
Right. Like, there's one person who we just don't have. We don't work the same. Like they're pretty. They know what they want, and I respect that. And but they're pretty sort of bossy about the way that they go.
Yeah.
And the energy isn't there. Like there's
something so freeing to get to a place where you can just say no to those people, not in like a mean way by any means, but just like in a way of like, we're not gonna make anything cool together. Like if we're not gelling, like nobody's winning.
Like
here.
We'll probably make something that works fine, but like I'm not gonna be proud to put my name to it, and I'm at a point in my life and career where I want to be involved in stuff that I'm proud to put my name to. I don't have to like think it's my favorite thing in the world, but I don't want to ever I don't want to cringe when I'm promoting something that I was a part of anymore. I've done 7 years of that. Not only that, but like, you got to sort of take what you can get when you're starting out for a while, and that better stuff is coming. I
had this running theory recently, and and I forget who I was talking to it about.
Damn, I'm already like 2 down.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do the 6-pack thing right now.
We're gonna do this, bro.
I had this running theory that I don't know I think I don't know, you might resonate with it because I think you have a very specific sound, but it's like I think every creative gets to the point where like they get known for something like pretty like defining, right? Like you're known for the Knox thing or the whatever you call that genre thing. That's like the band Camino-esque, guitar driven, really tight, whatever pop thing. But then I think you get to a point where like you as a creative gets over it. And like you start taking on those gigs. I'm not projecting by any means, so don't take this in a way, but it's I've gotten into it.
What are you talking about? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, like you start taking those, like people start coming to you for those gigs because like that's what they know you do well. But you in your mind, you're already like, I don't want to do this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So like you're cringing at things that you're doing now that you would have loved 5 years ago, right?
Yes.
And it's not to say that thing that you're doing now is bad. It's just like you as a creative have moved on. Intellectually is maybe not a fair way to say it, but you've moved on creatively.
Yeah, some people can only do so much of a certain thing for so long.
But I don't think there's any shame in you taking that gig.
No.
Because that might be, here's the thing, is like you might be getting paid
Playing
for that.
Strengths.
Well, you might be getting paid for that while your passion project is the next thing, right? That you're not getting paid for yet. So the thing that you're cringing at is unfortunately what you're doing and is unfortunately what's paying you probably very well because you're very good at it already and established and you were the forefront of it to begin with.
Well, there's a certain level of cringe I'm talking about.
Sure,
I can handle some cringe.
No,
like,
I know. We're talking like, we all get it. I know. But my point being, I think that's a thing that creatives struggle with because I think as you progress in your career, you start to run into that where you get pigeonholed for like a thing. And you're kind of like, well, wait, I didn't sign up to do the thing. I was just doing what I loved. Like, and I'm not that guy, you know?
Yeah.
I think I got on this riff because like John Mayer talked about that once where like Your Body's a Wonderland like blew up so much. And he's like, guys, like I get it. And I was that guy at one time and I did it and I wrote it. I'm going to stand behind it. But at the same time, like, I'm not that guy anymore. You know, like I'm on to new things. Like
he's reinvented himself over and over again too. So like he's the king.
Or like Ed Sheeran's even kind of done that where it's like, like he doesn't deserve, like he blew up for the thing. And
and now he circled back to that thing. Or like,
sure.
The 1975 too, like I love that band and they started off doing one thing and then went off and did some other styles of things which are at the time me and a lot of other 1975 fans were like, what is this? A lot of other people I know loved it, but their last album kind of circles back around to what I originally got into them for, like a return to form type of thing, which I was all about. But lately, though, I'm noticing myself starting to like more what they were doing in that weird little phase. And I'm like, oh, now I get it. Like, I get it. Like the weird UK garage stuff that like I thought was in like the weird ambient stuff.
They were ahead of it,
I was like, what is this? I mean, it sounds cool, I guess, but like, what is this? And now, or like the hyper poppy stuff that they started getting involved in too. I was like, what is all this? And now like, that was like 2019, 2018. And now 2023 going in, about to go into 2024, I guess, which is weird. It's sort of. I try to always think like
we got a few months.
Once we're at the 6 month point, you start thinking ahead. It's weird,
terrifying.
But anyway, now it's like, oh, that's making sense. So all this stuff sort of rounds around.
Yeah,
it's kind of like cyclical because now I'm noticing even John Mayer starting. Isn't he been doing a lot more like the soft rock kind of stuff he started off
he
with?
He literally had like the record like
I know
soft rock. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I love John Mayer. Which as a human, which is like a weird thing to say because I feel like he's hated as a human.
I've heard a lot of really weird. Everyone's got a John Mayer story.
John Mayer's just like, I mean, I think he's like notably known to be a douchebag, but I think he's just wildly self-aware. I don't know, and I love.
I think so too. Like,
I like his insight on life and art and whatever.
Yeah, me too.
And like his music's fine, but like I don't appreciate him for his music as much as I appreciate him as a quote unquote character and sort of
that's
personality. Which
I love that. Same.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's just an interesting thought that I've been thinking about of like artists and producers and whatever of like they get pigeonholed for a thing and they go, I didn't sign, and walk away and come back and maybe they return to that again and maybe it's like something in their own mind they have to prove they could do something else before they return to like loving the thing again.
Right, because like this kind of, I'm sure it's like if that's what you got popular for, became known for, then that must be like part of your instincts,
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, correct.
It must be.
It's what flows naturally from you.
Yes. Yeah.
But then you get that like teenage phase where you're like, no, like I want to rebel. It's
that's
not
a
me.
little bit of where I'm at right now. Like I love the pop rock stuff. And
well, you're definitely pigeonholed in it.
Yeah, and
not in like a bad way. But I mean, when I think of Cam Becker, like I literally just got a song the other day that had like
90s Kids, Knox.
No. I literally, I mean, it wasn't any of those guys. It was like some other song.
But like that style, I would say.
Well, it had like a couple like effects in it, like that where those like formant shifted like bass type things that you do, and I was like, they're going for what Cam's doing right now. I know what they're doing. Yeah, it was funny because like you have such a thing that, which is not a bad thing. By
I'm trying to like just mix like that pop rock world with like EDM in an interesting way, and I'm trying, and I noticed that's where like the keys background is trying to mix with the guitar fascination. Yeah. But it definitely is like a sound that I've kind of made myself known for, which I'm not mad about by any means, but there's definitely more sides that have yet to.
Yeah, you're like, you don't even know me. I can do more than this.
And if anything, I'm not like bothered or anything. I'm in a really good place of just like, y'all haven't seen nothing yet type thing. And it's cool.
I think it's a healthy way to approach something. It's a healthy way to like show what else you have.
It's a good place to be. There's sometimes where I'm like, fuck, I've become like, but at the same time, like, I'm only really less than a year into doing this professionally.
Oh, you're a baby, dude. That's why I love knowing you, because I'm like, you're gonna. So I'm saying 5 years, 6 years, it's gonna.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been doing I was in a band and producing for local artists and stuff, but it was always part time for like 7 years. And
yeah, but I think there's a pretty hard shift, and I felt this like
there is
when you move to a music city, when you really get ingrained in. The industry is like
not just like your buddies anymore.
That's all like there's no way to put it. And like people told me that before I moved to Nashville too. They're like, yeah, but like, because you compare yourself to somebody and it's like, yeah, but they don't work in like the industry, and then you start working in the like industry and you don't really, I don't know. And that's maybe like, it's like a gatekeepy way of like saying something, but like it definitely has that feeling where there's like a hard shift that I'm sure you felt of like, oh no, like this is.
People start talking about publishing and start talking about like, splits and management and contracts. And
correct, like real money starts flowing and like contracts
and stuff's coming in. All that. I'm like,
label things. Like
this is what I've been hearing about.
Yeah, it's not just PayPal, Venmo, me $20, $50. It's it's like we're talking distribution. We're talking this guy.
Yeah. It's a whole different thing, man. And like, and so
that's not to belittle anything below it or different than it, because there could be success in all avenues, I think. But I think there's a level of understanding, like when you're in the industry,
right? When you're doing the thing, and some people are and don't know it. And some people aren't and think they are.
Correct. So I think that's the dangerous place to like live, because you could live in that like weird denial for a while of being like, well, I make money doing it. Just because you make money doing it, I don't think means you're in the industry. Just maybe like a.
But at the same time, you don't have to be working with major labels on a daily basis to be in the industry.
Well, I think major labels. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the future of that holds. I mean, I think there'll always be like the money there, let's say, but I mean, I know so many people who aren't with major labels who are doing better than some people who are on major labels.
Oh yeah, dude, 100%.
Like that's really not
and a lot of those
the key to the quote unquote industry, I don't think.
Right. And a lot of those people who are like doing very well and are making really important stuff are kind of really only hanging in a small little not like intentional group, but like you know, they wouldn't even feel like they're in the industry per se.
Sure,
they've just got their friends and they see numbers, you know.
And I think there's probably a level of like most of them feel okay living there too to some extent. I don't know. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's the thing is all of it's nuanced, right? Like there's so many different things, and that's where I think you have to make peace with what it is, with what your aspirations are, really.
Yeah.
What inspires you?
What inspires me? It kind of changes. It kind of fluctuates. Just like.
What's been inspiring you? There's a better. I like that question better. What's been inspiring?
I like that. In both good and bad ways, nature. I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say.
Why bad?
Well, it's like, you know, obviously
the world is on fire.
You know, there's a bit of that where you're like, oh crap, everything. You know, I never, you know, everything's getting more and more extreme and more frequent and more scary and
That's
more
yeah.
record setting, and there's a bit of the feeling that this planet we're on is kind of trying to shake us off a bit sometimes, but also like I don't know, there's just a lot of beauty about it. Like, I've always been a big tree guy. Like, I've always been a big tree guy. I don't know.
I get what you're putting down.
You know, like, I can't, like...
I've always been a big
tree. Big tree guy, you feel me? I'm still a big tree guy. I don't know, man. Like, I honestly, like, I've been trying to, like, get outside every morning and just, like... Whether it's runs or walks or just like existing outside a little bit more, like
it's important. Yeah,
I just feel more alive when I'm out of the house for at least some intentional bit of. Like,
I mean, we spend so much time. In staring at screens.
I personally just get so depressed so quickly if I'm inside all the time. Like I hate winter for that reason. I don't like.
Yeah.
I like the vibe of like fall and spring and like around winter, but like the dead of winter when you just can't go outside and it's just dark all the time, I hate that. Like I get so depressed so fast.
It's the sunlight for me. I mean, when the days are short, and like here in Nashville, the days are so short.
Yeah,
in the winter. I think it's. I don't know. This is true. So correct me, somebody, but. I think it's because we're so close to like the time change, like where the time goes. If we're going back to the East Coast, the days are actually significantly shorter here.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that because like Columbus, where I'm from, like is more on the western end of Eastern time zone, but still like.
Yeah.
Columbus
I mean,
is up here, Nashville's down here.
I mean, that's still considered like northeast, I think. Columbus.
So like, and like the line is like right there. So like just before I get to Nashville, like probably an hour and a half away is when it changes. So we're
Crossville is where it changes, and it's
the very
like
east
an hour from here, actually,
end of Central Time. So it's like basically Eastern, or like basically that weird middle.
But we're an hour behind, so it really messes the days up. Yeah, but anyway, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, the winters are excruciating.
Yeah,
when it's dark at like 4:00, which I'm a morning person too, but I mean that kills me even more.
Yeah. Nature and like the pursuit of the best version of oneself. I don't know. That's kind of trying to be, and it's so it sounds kind of cliche, but like. It's so easy to sort of let myself slip into habits that I know are not the best version of me, and like I'm trying. Like I know that I'm so lucky to be where I'm at in life right now, and I mean I've earned it, but it's also like, you know, if I don't make the most of it, I'm an idiot, and so
it's fostering the gift that's kind of been given.
Yeah,
right? Like. You could sit in it and boast about it, where you can kind of like hold it, in a valuable way, and being like, no, this is this is good. I'm gonna make the most. And
like obviously it's not about just like for myself, but just and looking around at the people closest to me, like everyone right now is kind of trying to just be the best version of themselves and trying to figure out what that means and how to get there. And like a lot of the just casual conversations I've been having with my friends have been just like a lot of self-improvement talk and like self-help type stuff, which is good. I love that. But, you know, just trying to be the best version of oneself is kind of my goal lately. And enjoying the process too. Not trying to get to a certain goal, because then you're not, you know, really living. We're talking big right now. But
no, I mean that's an important thing to keep you grounded in all of it.
Yeah, man. What about you? What's been inspiring you lately?
Oh wow, great question. You know, it's not something I've thought of recently. I mean, conversations like this, I mean, are always fun.
I've also got a lot of bug bites right now, so I'm like scratching up my legs and stuff.
Nature.
Sorry for the distraction.
Nature.
Screw you, my inspiration.
What's inspiring me? I mean, I'm newly married, so
yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. So learning that dynamic has been fun and interesting relationship.
How long were y'all together before that?
It was quick. We did quick. It was like 9-10 months.
Oh wow!
We didn't even date a year. Yeah,
interesting.
It's a little
So you just knew, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess I haven't openly talked about this and
sure
thing, but like,
well,
I mean,
you know.
No, it's cool. I probably should.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I left a really long-term relationship. Well, a long-term relationship ended, I guess. Let's say. You know, a year or two back at this point now, and well, a year and a half-ish, and you know, that was big, that was crazy, it was a big life shift for me, and I learned a lot through that, and went through like a crazy process of just discovering things about my life and things, and a lot of what you're talking about is self-improvement, and you know, in the process met my now wife Hannah, and she also, you know, her story, she's divorced. So anyway, I mean, without getting the nitty gritty of it all, you know, we kind of knew, you know, we kind of knew in the details of it all that like it made sense and it was meant to be, and we did the thing, and I think,
it feels right, bro. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not old by any means, but I'm not getting any younger. You know, I'm getting closer to 30, and she's 30, and you know, kind of just got to the point where I was buying a house, and I was like, you know, this is what I desire for my life. So I think you get to that point, and you're just like, well, there's, you know, all you have is the decision to do.
Right. Yeah.
So we took the plunge. And yeah, I mean, it was, you know, crazy in a lot of people's eyes, for sure. Yeah. It was crazy.
I could see how that would.
Yeah, I don't know that
raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, I don't know that many people would look at it and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it just kind of goes back to the conversation where you were saying, like, you know, finding the best version of yourself and understanding a lot of that and on the continual path of that. And that, for me, looked like the next step.
Yeah, man.
Just in maturity and in life. So, yeah, craziness. I mean, so all of that has been wildly inspiring. I mean, there's been, you know, a pretty big grounding process through all of that. I don't know. I mean, I don't find inspiration through a lot of traditional art, which I think is maybe surprising, maybe not surprising. I don't know. Like, I don't listen to music really.
Interesting.
Like, for fun. Like, I use music as like a utility thing, and like I check up on music on Fridays just like see what's coming out. And like I enjoy music a lot, but I don't listen to it in that way. But I watch like I'm very inspired by visuals, like art, like photography is like a big part of my background, and like video and framing and like colors and vibes, which
I hate that word. But
I'm trying to get away from using the word vibe. Yes,
but it's just the best word.
But it's been so ruined by just how often we used it.
I know.
So
but
anyway,
everyone knows exactly what you mean when you say that. Just
I mean, like kind of, but like everybody's
aesthetic.
Aesthetic is a better way. Yes,
aesthetic
you're correct.
is a
like
better word. For
certain aesthetics, because like there's different aesthetics that maybe I don't resonate, but aesthetic things, and like, you know, I just bought a house, so like the idea of just work. Like truthfully, like put a garden outside and like
that's cool.
Yeah, like just I don't know, like work
adult stuff.
Yeah, like adult kind of like. I've always had this weird fascination and appreciation for like the beauty in the mundane.
Yes.
You know, like the beauty in like just the idea of like washing the dishes. Like I love kind of a lot of my favorite photographers or videographers are ones who don't ever move the camera and they just kind of have this like voyeuristic look on like things that most people would look at and be like, that's just a garage or like that's a you know, I'm like, and to me it's just like the beauty in the everyday of like that's just the being of it all.
Yeah. Have you seen the show Atlanta? Donald Glover.
No.
He's got the show Atlanta that's on Hulu. That's very much like the whole style of it is very beauty and mundane kind of thing.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Like every little shot is like very not. It feels. It's one of those things that's hard to describe, but like it is. You would.
Well, that's what was the Masters of None? The last season they did of that was the same thing where the camera. It was shot on film and the camera never moved. And it was just like the people were the only movement in the scene, and it was
things just like the atmosphere of it just feels weird a lot. Like it feels like there's
it feels uncomfortable because what we're used to with modern social media is like blast me in the face, dopamine, camera cuts, grab my attention, more attention. You know, whereas like when you slow down, and realize that that's not the way things really are. It's like more.
But in like the style of the show, there's like a lot of times like weird trippy stuff happens, or like
interesting,
slightly you could say supernatural stuff kind of happens. But like
I'll have to check this out.
It's like it also could be taking place in another dimension you don't know type thing. Like
Atlanta, it's called.
Yeah, the style of it is very like it's all Donald Glover, but like not funny. You know?
Gotcha. Well, I mean, this is like a hot topic, but years ago I loved the Louis C.K. What was his show, Louis?
Oh yeah.
Because it was that, like, it was comedy and just the mundane, where it's just like,
man,
like it was funny just because it was like, life.
Yeah,
you know?
I kind of am, but like beauty and mundane, man, like just romanticizing little moments, like a lot of times I'll wake up and sit on my bed and look outside and just be like, nice. And like, you know, like
nice.
You're just like nice. Like I don't know. It's just like that's kind of a vibe. This is a vibe right now. Like I don't know.
Well,
or
it's
walking outside, like just walking the dog, or you know, going on.
Yeah.
Just or like washing the dishes, or working on stuff and looking outside out the window for a moment. You're like, I'm doing this right now. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know?
I'm here. Well, it's the power of now. It's the idea of like Eckhart Tolle has a couple books that are like very that spiritual thing of it's, you know, I think everybody calls it something different or feels a different way about it or like resonates with it in a different light, but like it's the idea of just, you know, killing ego, killing thought, killing the idea and being and existing in a way that is freeing, right? Because like you live so much in your head sometimes that it destroys the now.
100%.
Destroys you from feeling
Absolutely.
where you are, which is terrifying because sorry, my battery died on the thing last time. And now I'm like constantly worried. Oh no, we're good. It was only like an hour in. You can't rely on batteries.
Is that gonna clip really hard if I do that?
Oh, probably, absolutely.
Let's go.
Yeah, just ear rape. How do you think the world's gonna end?
It's a big question, dude.
I know. I've been asking people that a lot.
I don't know why. Big questions.
It's like I've been asking people that, and I'm like, everybody has kind of a different answer. It's kind of surprising to think about.
How do I think the world's gonna end?
If you think it's gonna end, that assumes the world will end.
Well, if it ends, it'll. Man, it could either be totally our fault or we could just, not be able to stop in something inevitable. But I think the most likely result is that we end up killing ourselves somehow. If it ends. If it doesn't, then we clearly don't end up doing that. But we come very close many times, I'm sure. So I hope that, we don't. But I think right now, especially, humanity is just at such a crazy, we've got AI, we've got war, we've got climate change, we've got overpopulation, we've got pandemics that...
that's an interesting thing to say, though.
Biotech,
I heard an interview that I wish I could remember who it was with. It was probably Lex Friedman. I listened to a lot of his stuff.
His stuff is cool.
But somebody asked that question, which is why I asked the question, how do you think the world's going to end? Somebody asked it, and I think he said, he's like, realistically, statistically speaking, we're just going to die of old age. It's nothing crazy is going to happen. But based on the numbers of the way that we're repopulating and reproducing, we're going to die of old age. The median age has gone up dramatically and significantly over the past few years or whatever.
So rather than a big catastrophe, it's just
it's the Dante's Inferno, whatever. I think that's the book where it's from. It's this is how the world ends, not with a whimper, not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Interesting.
Whereas he's we're just going to die off. Someday there'll just be one last human and nobody will reproduce, and they're just
it seems like trends are going that way, because aren't a lot of big brain people worried about population decrease and stuff like that right now, because people aren't having kids and
people aren't having kids, people can't have kids. There's more and more just pollution in the world and bad whatever.
People just don't want... I personally think about trying to have a kid right now, let alone in the next few years at least, before I want to have a kid, and I'm God, if I think shit's bad now, I can't imagine how much worse it's going to be, and why bring any new human being into that, you know? But at the same time, it's well, if we don't, then what are we, we're literally creating our own demise type thing.
But you're correct. You're creating your own demise. And I don't know, I never thought about that sort of thing either, but somebody who I remember who I respected and was he's not making up these numbers. And I was whoa, it's crazy to think about that. Imagine a world where we don't go out with some crazy,
It's not a meteor. It's not a disease.
It's not AI taking over. It's not a war. It's not a blackout.
We just fizzle out.
Just fizzle.
We just slowly...
Which is probably unfortunately, the most depressing way to go, I think.
I think it's the better way to go.
Why? Because it feels painless, but...
Yeah, because it feels
But it's truly our own fault.
It is.
To some extent, right?
Sure, but
it's collectively deciding we just shouldn't exist anymore.
That's pretty somber when you put it that way, but it also could be a sort of natural selection of our collective consciousness saying it's time to be done now. We've ran our course.
Collective consciousness saying we've done our thing. Wild.
We've done our thing, and maybe AI is what's meant to carry the torch, or AGI. We're getting sci-fi with that, but
interesting.
I don't know, man. But I'm more comfortable with the thought of fizzling out like that, than the thought of a big wipeout event.
I mean, a big wipeout event sounds catastrophic for sure and terrifying. But
it's also quick. It's also quicker.
Is it though?
Maybe not. Depending. But I think about
I've watched enough sci-fi things to know that maybe it's not.
No, you're right. Because then there's always the people who are the survivors who are starving, who starve to death, or eat each other, or kill each other. Anyway, there's always movies about that shit.
Yeah, it's a crazy thought.
I like that question though. How do you think the world's gonna end? Because that shows a lot. That kind of says a lot.
It's not something people think about.
I know, but it kind of says a lot about the person you ask it. Because I don't know.
You're gonna miss. Yeah. I don't know. Does it? I'm curious to see what people's thoughts are. I don't really have an answer to it. I don't know how the world's gonna end.
I've
I don't put a lot of thought into the end of things. I don't put a lot of thought into me dying.
Me either.
It's something I think more about. This is the craziest thing in the world. I think more about the idea and thought that I don't think about me dying for some reason.
You
I don't
think
know why.
about not the fact. You think about the fact that you don't die. Or,
No.
you think about the fact that you don't think about dying.
Correct.
Okay.
I feel like I should be more existential and like scared of dying, but I don't think about dying, and I don't know why.
Interesting.
And it scares me that I should.
I don't think you should.
But like, is it like some weird immortal?
Why worry?
Like,
Why think about it? Why worry
No, I know.
about
I
it?
don't want to.
Other than to set up a life insurance policy.
Which is crazy because it's like I have other weird insecurities that I'm like, why are you worrying about this? Like you should be worried about dying. Why am I worried about like if people like me or not or think I'm cool? Why should I be worried about
Your survival
if my
instincts.
head's gonna get chopped off or I'm gonna die in a catastrophic car crash?
My dude. That's like also a huge fear. Car crash. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't think about dying, so I don't think about car crashes.
I just don't think about it.
I mean, I'm like,
It's not a problem.
I'm like worried about it because I'm like, that sounds like an expensive thing to happen in my life that I don't want to deal with.
Right, yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't think too much about it either, man.
I worry more about the fact that I don't worry about dying, which is maybe gives you a peek into my brain. It's pretty crazy up there.
It's a pretty anxious cycle there. It's like
Right.
an inception of anxiety.
I'm doubly anxious. I'm anxious about not being anxious.
Are you okay, brother?
Wow. This was therapy that I didn't know. I needed right
Hell yeah. Dude, how long has this been going?
Yeah,
on?
we
Just out
should.
of curiosity.
I don't know. We should probably wrap up. I kind of lost track.
It's been like probably an hour 20. I
hour
think.
20. I like rapping this way. What would you tell like a younger version of yourself or somebody starting out doing the music thing or doing not I hate pigeonholing music, like doing art in general, right? Like for a living.
Just setting out to do their passion for a living.
Okay, passion for a living, great. Unless your
Good
passion's
fucking
like,
luck,
unless your
man.
passion's like banking,
Right.
Like,
Good.
then you're already got the luck on your side. But
Yeah. Good luck. Do everything you can. just love the process of doing it. Just love doing it. You know, it's so easy to chase numbers and chase success or whatever definition of success that you have, but the one thing that's going to get you, at least for me, the one thing that's going to increase your odds of achieving that success that you want is just doing the thing and enjoying it and getting as good as you can at it, and just as often as you can, as much as you can.
it's the reps, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the people who go to the gym once and want to be ripped. you know?
Exactly.
It's like it doesn't work that way.
It's the reps, and not even doing the reps to achieve some goal of success later. Like just doing it to do it, and doing it to do it the best that you can in that moment that you're doing it. Because that's all just going to compound, and once...
That's a word. That's a word, because I think that's where true,
enjoying the
love for it
process, because that's where you're just enjoying the present and enjoying doing. Because if you're constantly... Like, for me, is where I'm at right now, is like... It's easy for me to get distracted while working on stuff, because the working on it is... Like in my head, I try to I make it not as enjoyable. I'm always doing it to achieve the goal of finishing. Where if I enjoy the process of tinkering and playing and making it, I'm less likely to say screw this and open up Instagram or try to procrastinate and do other stuff, because it feels like work. If I look at it as play, then and achieving the end result will just happen if I keep playing, you know?
Play is such an interesting thing.
It is a balance, though.
I've heard so many people like kind of talk about that in the creative process of
it
like
is work.
playing, and like, I don't know, maybe it's something I need to explore in my mind, because I just feel like I've lost the idea of play.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. Like it's hard for me to like pinpoint a time that I've played. recently.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like in my current life situation.
A lot of times.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of times that looks like just switching up your toolbox, or like getting a new toy, or like getting a new thing.
But here's my excuse for that, right? Ready? Which is a bad excuse, but for what
a new thing. But
but what I do, right? Mix records.
Yeah,
it's a very black and white thing.
Sure.
And I have a process that works for me.
Mm-hmm.
That is comfortable for me. That I know the tools that I have, and when I get a mix, which is let's for this instance call it a problem, right?
Sure.
I need to solve this problem.
Right.
I have all my tools, and I need to use A, B, C, X, Y, Z to solve the problem to get this mix that translates, that goes into the world. Why would I want to mix it up when I already know those things? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I think play for me like that's not an area that I'm interested in playing in.
Well, that's
you know.
Well, with that's your job. You're trying to be efficient. You're trying to get it done and out the door
and maybe
quickly with quality.
And I think maybe that's where I'm approaching mixing from such a business point at this point in my life that is maybe not healthy. Maybe I don't know, but it's definitely not like when you're like, Josh, you should play with mixing. I'm like, I update my template once a year usually, maybe twice a year if I'm like really like. Yeah. But like otherwise, like I have the things and I play within those things. Like, oh, maybe like this tool didn't do it. Let me try this one. Okay, that did it. Cool. Like we're here now. But I don't really want to introduce a new tool usually because it's just too many more options. You know.
Well, then I guess
I don't know.
Figure out and find ways to continue to remain in love with the thing that you do every day and the processes that you have, you know.
Sure.
And
that gets in the existential. Like, I think I need to produce more or do something else because I don't know. I don't know if mixing's going to exist in a few years. To be honest,
honestly, I think about that too, and I didn't want to say it this whole time.
You said I didn't want to say it.
I didn't want to say it, but I do think there's a high chance that mixing is going to be completely automated in the next 5 years.
I don't know that it's going to be automated as much as I think.
Not completely.
No. I don't see automation solving the mix problem. I see people just not caring about it anymore. I see the landscape of like good, bad, mixing, translating, like getting so little. And I think it's mainly because of how loud things are and how compressed things are nowadays that like to get something that loud, there's very little like wiggle room in balances anymore.
Yeah.
There's more just like levels of distortion. Really.
100%.
There's more just stuff, about like
like
levels of distortion that people are like not interested in having are like okay with having.
Yeah.
You know?
I see. No, that's so true.
And like most of my job that I work for people is usually like I'm too busy to mix this, so like you handle it, or like a peace of mind thing, you mix this, or yeah, I mean, there's definitely a skill thing to it. Like people are like, hey, I'm just not good enough at doing this. There's a taste thing, correct? There's a taste thing. So like, there's still value in all of that. But my point being, like, those are small details and smaller instances than I think 5-10 years ago, where the need for a mixer was much more needed, but also nuanced.
Yes, it's a whole thing.
It was a whole like come together process a lot more than what happens now, where like everything exists on your laptop in your Logic session and you're already flatlining the whole thing. Like
I'm running it through Ozone and L1 and
yeah, which I mean again is like I enjoy getting stuff like from Oxford you or like people who flatline stuff, because like to me it's such a nice refining process now where I'm like, you already did the hard work.
Yeah,
I love it because you already did the hard work. Now what my job is just make it that 5, 10, 15, 20% better. That like to me it's still valuable,
and ideally,
until like people who hire me still believe it's valuable too.
Yeah. And it ideally shouldn't take you all day. Like, you should be able to just do your thing with it. Like,
correct.
Not have to do a bunch of utility work and get it back up to a listenable point, you know?
Correct. I turn down stuff now that, like, doesn't have a rough mix, or that, like, the rough mix doesn't even line up with the files. And they're like, oh, I took all... Like, if somebody tells me, like, okay, here's, like, all the files dry, I go, nah.
Nope,
either, like, I was like, either here's your money back, or, like, print everything for me. Because, like... It's going to take me 2 days just to, like, rebuild everything you did. And I'm never going to get, like, close.
It's not going to be this. Exactly.
Never.
Like, to me, I'm noticing lately the production and mixing process is becoming more and more, like, hand in hand, becoming more and more interlinked, you know?
I mean, yes, you're correct. Here's the pushback that I give to people. And I think you and I have even talked about this. But, like, the mixing process has become the mastering process. It's become it's become the peace of mind.
That's a better way to put it. Yes.
Right? It's become instead of, you know, mastering a 2-track, I like to say that, you know, I'm a mastering engineer, but I have 200 tracks to work with. So I have more flexibility. I can do all the things. It also saves you time because now I'm the one having to print the stems. I'm the one having to print the clean version, the radio version. You know what I mean?
Which
Yes, talk about how much time it takes. Correct.
Yes.
So it becomes less of a it becomes less of an artistic like work function and more of a hand it off. This isn't my thing anymore. Yeah. You know, like I become the archive almost to some extent.
Which gives the producer peace of mind because they can go and clear their hard drive and clean out space if they want and not have to worry about
Well, in a perfect world where a producer's busy, they're already on to the next 4 songs that are supposed to be hits, right? Yeah. Like, they can't be worrying about printing a TV version and then the label coming back and going like, oh, you missed the ending for some reason, didn't fade long enough, or, oh, we need a radio version. Can you make a clean version? You go, oh, I forgot. Oh, it's a whole, like, got to open the thing, but I'm on, you know, like, so... It has become a utility, which, again, I don't mind at my current state, but it definitely is a different gig than it was 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
Mixing records where, you know, which I still get those occasionally, and like depending the band or the artist, like I'm cool with it where they send me like, hey, we cut all this in a studio. It needs to be timed. It needs to be tuned. It needs to be edited. It probably even needs some extra production work on it. Like, are you know, and I'm like, yes, but that's a different gig than getting a session from you where you're like, this already feels great and we're signed off. Like, if you mess anything up, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different game. Like,
it is interesting.
If you add a delay throw, I'm going to ask you to take it away. Which I get a lot of stuff with like that, where it's if I add a single delay throw, reverb, whatever, they're usually like, nah, we already did all that.
Yeah.
Take it out. We just wanted to make sure the low end was tight. It's punchy. Wasn't distorting. Because the only way I knew how to get it loud was to distort it, you know. So
that's kind of where I'm at too sometimes. Do I just clip it? Do I just put a limiter on every single group?
I mean, that's the sound of records nowadays.
I know a guy. He's gonna know when he hears this. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's gonna know. Who puts a limiter on everything. And that's just how he mixes. He just puts a limiter on every group.
Well, that's
not just that, but like
that's Billy Decker's way of going about stuff. He's been very open about that. Where it's just like L2, 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 and he's been teaching that method for a while.
Well, it's just a thing then, and I heard that. I'm like, are you okay, bro?
Well,
I get that on like drums, and I don't know. Anything that's like transient heavy that you want to just be loud but still maintain that.
Here's the thing. If you know how to feed a limiter, like people, the real key to mixing is balance. And that's what people don't understand.
It's all volume.
It's all volume. But the problem is with volume comes tonal balance, right?
Yes.
So like you need to know how to turn something down but turn the top end up to make it feel louder.
Yeah.
Or turn something up and turn the top end down to the low. Like, you get what I'm saying?
It's like mostly volume and EQ to me.
And then after that, it's just hitting the limiter, and it won't distort, or it will distort, depending what you want.
Or master compressor. But like even that shouldn't be doing much.
I don't compress a lot, to be honest. Really? Like I'll compress to change if I need to like change the transient or change the tonal shape of something. But for loudness, I don't compress unless it's like a raw vocal going in.
Yeah.
But at this point, I don't get anything that isn't already squished to hell and back. You know what I mean? Like, unless it's like legitimately a source in front of a microphone that is dynamic that needs to like be contained. I don't use a compressor for loudness necessarily, because there's better ways to do that nowadays. There's cleaner ways, like just clip gain, or just automate it, or transient designer. Like I use transient designers, or clipping, like you said.
I usually use compressors for like in the case of just like straight mixing, for just like obviously glue and like the tonal, like the shape of it. Rather
but you're
like,
recording. You're an engineer.
Yeah,
you're not talking like a mixer right now. You're talking like an engineer, because you're taking a vocal from this vocal that I'm putting into this microphone right now, and that doesn't need compression. You're correct. That needs compression.
Yeah,
but as far as like mixing goes, will an SSL compressor on the drum bus do a thing? Yeah. Could you get away with it without doing it and having a fine mix?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's other ways to get that tone. Put it through put a transformer on it, or do something, or just duck the low end out a bit. Like, it's basically what it's doing, and you could do it in a cleaner, more controlled way. But I don't know. We're getting technical.
We're getting there. We're doing it.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think about that a lot, because I just think that the landscape of mixing's changing, the landscape of producing. I mean, the landscape of producing's changed, right? Mm-hmm. Think about 10 years ago what a producer did.
Everyone's kind of got their processes, I'm noticing. They're always evolving, but I kind of came up with these more like arcade style loop.
You and I have talked about that before,
or like chopping up song starters and making a thing out of it. Like, the landscape is changing, but it's also like, at least in the last couple of years, I haven't noticed too much of like anything groundbreaking, other than like more like AI sonic selection. Splice has this AI powered thing where it's like,
I don't know about this.
They'll it like brings up related samples, or like or like we'll bring together, like it'll make a collection of some of like stuff that would sound good together from across a bunch of different packs based on your preferences, that it scans your library and sort of searches for so like it sort of makes the sound selection process easier. There's also like chord generators and stuff like that, but that's kind of been around for a little while.
See, but you came up in a world where your laptop was your DAW.
Yes,
right? Like,
my laptop is the tool.
I still remember times when the limitations of the DAW as well. Like, you couldn't have more than 24 tracks without having like an HD rig or something.
Oh, dude,
so
yeah.
Like,
You're right.
Talk about the name of the game of like producing changing, or like cost of entry changing, or just like also. I mean, I just remember, maybe I just came up in a different genre or like world or whatever, but I mean, producers technically used to just be paid to have an opinion. They would just sit on the couch in the back of the studio.
They were just the tastemaker dude in the back.
The tastemaker. They had an opinion.
They were the traditional Rick Rubin style,
which Rick Rubin everybody like laughs at. I was like, what? He can't play an instrument.
Like, no, that's a traditional producer right there.
Now
like,
producers are meant to be like beat makers
and
engineers, and they gotta be musicians. They gotta be if you can't pick up a guitar in a session, a guitar's not getting played in the session.
And composer, and mixing engineer, and mastering engineer, and
arranger,
the whole. You're supposed to be all in one guy.
You gotta edit everything.
To me, like, whenever my mom asked me, like, when I started doing all this a lot more, and she was like, what do you even, I don't even understand what you do. Like, my grandma is like, what do you even do? I'm like, everything but the vocals. Everything but writing and singing the vocals. And she's like, okay, I don't really know, but like, I guess that makes sense. So like, anytime
all we care about is the vocals.
Yeah. Well, whenever you hear a song, the producer did like everything but writing and singing the vocal. And
it's come to a point where it's a little crazy, maybe, but
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It is what it is. A lot of times the artist,
you have to roll with it. Yeah, you have to roll with the changes, because I don't know.
Roll with the changes.
Because that we're not going to go back there, but like it just brings back up the AI thing, right? Like you could either like be the guy screaming at the wind that things changed and lose your job because other people are adapting, or you roll with it and find a way to adapt. And like that might look different for everybody. It might be like, I can't play guitar, but I can hum a note and auto tune it and compress it and distort it. It sounds like a guitar, you know?
I know some freakish producers who do stuff exactly like that.
Exactly.
They'll and drag it in and then make a whole chord stack out of it, make a whole instrument out of it, and then the whole thing. Like, people are crazy, dude. There have been no limits for a long time.
Yeah, which is amazing, which is why the AI thing is interesting to me in general, because
it's like, how does it even get more limitless? If anything, it's just like
it just gets
now it's just that they do it for you.
Pretty much, or just gets easier or quicker. I think is like the thing. Like, it gets quicker to do that. Like, where's that dude who has to hum and then drop it into his phone or a computer and then like put it into a sampler? Like,
but there isn't
AI can do all that for you at the touch of a button, maybe. You know what I mean?
Right, but to me, there is like, you still would have to hum in, and then it would just do everything else.
Sure.
Right?
Well, that's just straight up automation, maybe to some extent.
That's what I'm saying. Is like there is like part of the art form is taking your thing and turning it.
But imagine you hum in once, and then it samples it and has it all, and now you have your own instrument that you hummed that AI generated.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. So like a lot of what AI is going to be less about like creating anymore, or like playing the physical instrument, as much as it's going to be about like coding the newest technology or instrument or whatever it may be. Like we're going to be software developers more than we're going to be like musicians, I think.
Interesting. Yeah.
Is like what I see AI becoming.
I think you're right. Yeah.
You know, because you could already think about like ChatGPT, and it's like people who are stringing together the best lines of code, quote unquote, but really what we're calling them now are prompts.
Yeah.
Right? Prompts are essentially code.
Yeah. Well, I do think that there's always going to be, like, even now with all this electronic laptop style stuff, there's still people who are doing it the old-fashioned way with guitars and drums in a studio with amps and doing it one take. And
this brings it all back to where we kind of started, right? Like, it's about finding who you are and what you resonate with, because there's always there's a market for everything. We live in a culture now where communication is wide open, and you could find whatever it is. So like, if you're the guy who's the best guy at putting microphones in front of guitars, or like playing piano, acoustic upright, like, you're always going to find that thing. It's just about getting to the core of what it is that you're good at and communicating that correctly and being that thing.
Photography did not kill drawing or painting. It just became another thing, another form of art.
Yeah.
You know? That's what, like,
that's a great analogy. Yeah.
Like, I don't think that there's always going to be people who are going to want to produce like people did in 2018.
Correct.
You know, people.
You just have to find the people who appreciate it.
Exactly.
If I became a photographer, I have to find people who appreciate that, and other people are going to appreciate a hand-drawn painting. So.
Exactly.
Cam,
that's a beautiful way to end it. Honestly, Josh.
I love it.
Like, that was exquisite. I enjoyed that.
This is a fun conversation.
Yeah, man. I agree. Thanks for having me, dude.
No, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure. Later.